Hello everyone, and yes, I'm happy to say that we finally have the trailer for the final season of The Solar Opposites. This week, the trailer for the final season of The Solar Opposites released. I have seen it now, and I think it looks really pretty good. So in this video, I'm going to talk about The Solar Opposites, what I thought of the trailer, and what I think's in store for us ahead. Also, I'm going to talk about some new news we've received from Adult Swim. But first, I think it's time that we checked in with the Solar Opposites.
Okay, lots to catch you up on. Where to start? Looks like the Solar Opposites are broke!
Personally, I've never been one to say that this show is just as good as or better than Rick and Morty. Honestly, I still say that the show is really pretty good, but I do think that Rick and Morty is better, just personally. And I'm mentioning this now just to say that yes, I do understand that this show was created by a lot of the people who created Rick and Morty, but then slowly as the show went on and as Justin Roiland got removed from various different projects, this show, like a lot of others, became something where it was created by its own set of creatives, and it really became something new and different to what it initially was. And really, I've enjoyed the show's entire run. I think there's been a lot of great sci-fi shenanigans come out of the show, and I've really enjoyed a lot of the characters, especially with the last season where Justin Roiland was removed from the cast and the main characters got their own separate distinctive voices. Also, before we look at the trailer, I can't not mention this in a video about the Solar Opposites because yes, I am someone who has always really enjoyed the war storyline. Both Rick and Morty and the Solar Opposites have always been great with these sorts of storyline that are just happening in the background with these various different factions and different characters. And honestly, the world building and the different ideas explored here are just so interesting and weird that it's hard not to enjoy them. Lastly, before we look at the trailer, I just want to mention that of course, yes, I do enjoy the Space Cops storyline because of course, it is just so weird and so sci-fi that I can't not enjoy it. Of course, it's playing on a lot of that Green Lantern type storyline with this poor guy who has just been yeeted into space and forced onto this weird adventure that I can't not enjoy it.
Dodge Charger!
Did you just make up that name?
Yup!
Now, in terms of the trailer, I don't want to spoil too much for different people, because honestly, with this being the final season of the show, I do want more people to go out there and watch the trailer for themselves, just to give the show a bit more attention. So really, in this video, I'm just going to talk about a few key moments from the trailer that I think looked really cool. So of course, the trailer starts off with Corvo and Terry, and really, I do enjoy hearing these guys again, honestly. These guys got their new voice actors in the last season, and really I do think that they are just really good voices for these characters, especially Corvo's. Corvo is voiced by Dan Stevens, and honestly this guy does a great job with the voice. The voice is just as funny, weird, and just perfectly suited for this character that I really can't complain. Also, I am someone who has really enjoyed Corvo and Terry's relationship and seeing how it's been explored over the entirety of the show so far. So really, I'm looking forward to seeing these guys be just an interesting couple and a really fun couple in this new season of the show. Moving on, we get various different voice tidbits in the trailer where I think that we're seeing the plots of various different episodes. I don't think these are all just one episode. I think these are various different episodes that we're going to see throughout the season. One big thing that's mentioned in the trailer is the idea that, of course, one of the Solar Opposites will have to die. And honestly, I'm not sure what they mean by this. Because of course, I am pretty sure that the Solar Opposites have done an episode where they have died previously, and that's died in quotation marks. Because of course they are aliens and they have a really different and weird system when it comes to life and death and moving on and everything else. So of course this could be something where it's just a sort of funny comedic bit like what we saw previously, or it could be its own separate thing which could be a good and interesting new thing to explore. Honestly, this is just a short 43-second long trailer, so there's really not much to talk about beyond a lot of the voice tippets and the visuals. We do of course see the space cops with one of their spaceships shooting at something in this trailer, so of course we do know that that plotline is going to get an ending, which I think will be really good to see. Also, although we don't see a lot of stuff pertaining to the war storyline in this trailer, I do think that in this final season we will get some sort of episode relating to it, just because with it being such an acclaimed series of episodes and stories, that I really don't think the show will end without giving us some sort of ending to that plotline. Lastly, something I didn't see too much of in this trailer was Yumulak, and honestly, I am someone who has enjoyed Yumulak's character over the show. He is someone who for me is just really weird and such a little goober that I can't not enjoy a lot of the stuff he does. Probably one of my favourite things he did last season was turn himself human, and honestly, that whole episode was a lot of fun and a very good and funny watch. Finally, the trailer ends with Dan Stevens doing another fantastic bit with this great voice he's doing for Corpo.
Streaming original content!
Oh my god, who cares? It all changes every 10 years anyway.
Honestly, I think that this trailer looks really very good. In terms of animation, it looks like the show is going to give us a lot of what we expect from this team, with a style that's very similar to Rick and Morty and a lot of stuff that looks very distinct but also very interesting and fun, especially with the sci-fi aesthetic. Although it is puppet animation, it still looks like there's plenty of time and effort that's been put into this animation and a lot of the other assets developed for the show. Now, I'm not one to argue whether or not I think that this show is funnier or just as funny as Rick and Morty, but instead I will say that I am someone who has personally always enjoyed this show's comedy. Of course, you can say, and people have said, that a lot of this show derives a lot of its comedy from the same sort of nihilism that Rick and Morty preaches and really enjoys with its comedy, but honestly, I don't think so, really. I really think that it's a more cosmic horror sort of comedy where we have various different plot lines like the war story, which are just so existential and weird that you have to be kind of scared about what's actually happening to these characters, whilst also still being able to laugh at what you're seeing on screen. And yes, I am someone who wants to see this type of comedy continue in the final season, because really I am someone who has enjoyed this type of comedy and probably always will, but that's just who I am. Now, with everything else out of the way, I do want to just say briefly that I am someone who has personally always enjoyed The Solar Opposites, and honestly I am someone who is a little upset to see it go. Of course, it was announced recently that Rick and Morty would be renewed for another 4 seasons, taking them all the way up to season 12, and The Solar Opposites is only getting 6. And that is, of course, a lot more seasons than many other shows get, but honestly is something that I really think would have been nice to see go on for a little bit longer. Because of course, this show has more plot lines going on than just the usual stuff going on with the Solar Opposites family. Of course, you have the war storyline and the Space Cops stuff, and it's all really interesting, and it's honestly kind of a shame that we have to see it all end so quickly. And before I move on, I just want to say that with the Solar Opposites ending, I think it would be really nice to see some sort of art of book or something along those lines be released for this show, as I haven't been able to find anything previously, but still think that this would be a really nice time capsule to just keep the show within a lot of people's collections and just keep it somewhere that a lot of people can enjoy it, if that is something that people want and don't just want to rewatch the show. Because honestly, I am one of those people. I do like to collect art books, especially for animated shows. Anyway, with my personal thing out of the way, let's move on to the new news that we've received from Adult Swim.
And now for something completely different.
Yes, it has finally been announced that we are getting a spin-off show from Rick and Morty all about President Curtis. And really, I am someone who is cautiously optimistic about this show, because really, I'm not someone who has been so desperate for any more Rick and Morty spin-offs. Honestly, I think a lot of what Rick and Morty does works for that show, especially with its 2 main characters and the wider family. However, I'm not sure it's something that will work with a lot of the show's wider side characters. And I'm only saying this because I'm invested in Rick and Morty and the family characters. However, I'm not as invested in a lot of the side characters. Honestly, for me, a lot of the wider side characters are just jokes meant for people to laugh at and enjoy. I don't think that there's something that a lot of people can really get invested in. And honestly, in saying that, I will say that I am someone who is perfectly willing to be proven wrong. Now, as anyone who knows me will know, I am someone who doesn't like to make a lot of offhanded judgments about shows before anything has really been released for them. Largely just because I accept the fact that if this show does come out and does prove me wrong, then I am just wrong. But really, in this circumstance, I do want to say that really, I am cautiously optimistic for this show, largely just because of how this character has been presented in Rick and Morty previously. He hasn't been someone who has been one of those side characters from Rick and Morty who has been given a lot of great depth or interesting character bits. He's really just popped up in a lot of the show's funnier episodes to be a fun and wacky side character. And honestly, that's fine in and of itself. Although, for me, I am more interested in various different characters that have a lot more to them and who are just a little bit more interesting. And who knows, maybe this show could do that for this character. Maybe they could make President Curtis a bit more interesting and a bit more in-depth. And honestly, with it being a comedy show, they really don't have to do that, but it is something that they have proven themselves being capable of doing with a lot of their various other shows. So it would be nice to see that happen with President Curtis. Now, lastly, with everything I've just said about this new show, I want to just say quickly that I am not in any way shitting on this show before it has even come out. No, I am actually still cautiously optimistic and still rather hyped for this show. I honestly think that I will never actually hate this show, and actually I think I will really rather enjoy it, especially when the main character is voiced by Keith David. Keith David, of course, is one of those guys who just has one of those fantastic voices that I really can't complain about, and honestly will just always enjoy. Really, you could get Keith David to say pretty much anything, like a lot of the Rick and Morty stuff have, and it will always be funny to me.
There seems to be a confluence of Rick Sanchez's killing each other over the American Southwest.
Sounds exhausting. How many of those states voted for me anyway?
Mr. President, I think the point of the Electoral College is
To preserve slavery? That's right, Steve. I have the internet too. Now take your white ass to the kitchenette and bring me a Diet Coke.
Now, finally, I just want to thank everybody for watching this video. Thank you for sticking around to check out the Solar Opposites Season 6 trailer with me, and sticking around to see all this news about new President Curtis show from Adult Swim. Please, leave me a comment down below, and let me know whether or not you're excited for this final season of the Solar Opposites, and whether or not you are hyped for the new President Curtis show. Thank you all for watching, like, subscribe, and do all the YouTube stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.